Greetings, students. We're back for Culture Week. So we finally made it through Theory Week. Congratulations. We're moving into the more interesting parts of sociology and actually getting to apply sociology and do the fun parts. So we are in chapter 3. This is about culture. We have our first section of keywords. So the first thing you need to know the definition of is the word culture. So a culture represents the values, beliefs, norms, languages, symbols, and practices of a group. All the stuff, right? All the things. Whereas society represents the people who share the culture. So the culture is all the stuff we do, all the stuff we have, all the things we make, language, all of that. Whereas society is the actual humans, right? Pretty basic stuff. We're also moving on to ideas of cultural universals. So this is fascinating. All humans are the same, right? We all have the same basic needs. We all need food, shelter, water, etc. We find a lot of commonalities across cultures with cultural universals. So these are patterns or traits that are globally common to all societies. Does not matter where you are, everybody has these things. So things like funerals. Pretty much every culture has a funeral of some kind. Marriages of some kind. Those are cultural universals. Humor, cultural universal, things that all human beings share. And there's lots of those things. Other ideas from this section are ethnocentrism. And this is an idea that you're trying to evaluate and judge another culture based on your own cultural norms. And this is a thing that we're trying to avoid, right? So we're from America. Most of us are Americans or are living here right now. So we have a tendency to expect everybody else to live up to America because we seem to think often, not everybody, but we often think that our own culture is the best, like the absolute best, right? And that you cannot improve on that. So when we look at other cultures that are different than American culture, we'll often be like, well, we don't do that in America and that's bad here, so the culture's bad. And that's just not something you can do because people are different and people have different values, belief systems, all of that. So you don't want to do that either. You also don't want to do the opposite of that, and that's xenocentrism. And that's where you think other cultures are superior to your culture. Everyone has a certain amount of natural ethnocentrism. It's survival. You kind of need to think your way of doing things is the best way of doing things in order to continue to do those things. You just don't want it to go too far, right? It's not a good thing. So those are opposite concepts. And then we also have these ideas of cultural imperialism and cultural relativism. These are a little more complicated. Cultural imperialism is the deliberate imposition of one's own cultural values on another culture, right? So this would be showing up in another country and saying, hi, I'm American. I want all of you to start speaking English and establish a democratic republic, and we need 80% of you to be Christian because that's the way it should be because those are my cultural values, right? That's not a good thing. We don't want to do that. We want everybody to have their own interesting cultures and visit and play. This is similar to a concept that helps to prevent cultural imperialism that's known as cultural relativism. And cultural relativism is the practice of assessing a culture by its own standards rather than viewing it through the lens of one's own culture. So this can be more or less difficult depending on how much life experience we have, right? If we don't necessarily see that there's more than one way of doing certain things, it can be very difficult to see another culture as neutral. So, this is somewhat difficult. We can get a little uncomfortable with it. It's harder with certain practices. So there's going to be certain practices that are going to be a little easier to be relative about than others, right? A common example with this one with Americans or Westerners is the idea of the veil or head coverings in lots of the world. Often we will assume that these women are horribly oppressed and they want to be freed from the veil, that kind of thing. But if you actually talk to these women, they're voluntarily doing this. This is a part of their culture, their religion that they firmly believe in. So, you don't want to impose your own cultural values on others. It's just not going to work. Like I said, this is going to be more or less difficult depending on how much experience you have with the world and life and various cultural expectations. So it's something that we generally work on throughout life. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.